From time to time, there'll be some out-of-touch billionaire that steps into football. They have no idea about the business or logistics of football. They made their money in, venture capital. So they'll step in and buy majority stakes in a club with this idea that they can win trophies immediately if they just spend enough money. So that very first season in charge, they'll spend upwards of 500 million, bringing in the world's greatest strikers, defenders, midfielders. But almost every time, that team gets worse. So why? Well, today we're looking at some super teams that have failed and what tactical errors they made that caused their downfall. In the summer of 2018, Juventus made the most aggressive move in Serie A history. They signed Cristiano Ronaldo. Alone this signing is great for marketing, but it also sends a message that they wanted to win the Champions League. They had already been on top of Italy, but now they wanted to become a European super team by signing Mr. Champions League, who himself was coming off his third consecutive UCL final. The upcoming season exposed a hard truth. Juventus had added a superstar, but had given him no tools to use. As the season progressed, statistically, Juventus were dominant, winning Serie A with 90 points, scoring 70 goals and only conceding 30. They had finished 11 points ahead of second place Napoli, and they secured the title with a few games to spare. But if we examine it closely, we can see a drop-off. Their overall attacking output dropped from the previous season. The season before Ronaldo's arrival, they had scored 86 league goals. This campaign, they had only scored 70, despite adding the world's greatest goal scorer. So the numbers kind of hinted that maybe there was an imbalance in their attack. So looking at their tactics, Allegri had them mainly set up in a 4-3-3 or a 4-3-1-2. This was designed to accommodate Ronaldo's free role on the left, just letting him do whatever he wanted. He's the best player in the world. However, with this setup, there were three major issues, and let's start with the most obvious. The main issue was dropping Mandzukic. He was a winger who played like a second striker, but was also physical and defended like a winger. So when he was playing, Juventus could play in a more solid 4-4-2 block, with Higuain and Dybala leading the line, and Mandzukic playing left mid. But compare this to with Ronaldo off the left, his work rate was way less because he wanted to operate as the main attacker. Issue 2 was Dybala's role got very awkward. The attack was way too congested in the final third. So Dybala lost his natural link-up play with Mandzukic and Higuain, which won them the title last season. The reason for this issue was the congestion that Ronaldo caused, because he wanted to be the main man scoring goals in these positions that Dybala would usually operate in. Issue 3, a structurally conservative midfield. They didn't create a lot of attack. Just to list off a couple names, Pjanic was a sideways deep creator, but he doesn't average many line-breaking passes. Matuidi is more of a defensive shutter. Chan/Bentancur is a box-to-box midfielder, but they can't arrive late in the box to score or assist. It's a solid midfield, it's just very creatively limited. Juventus had averaged incredibly low progressive passes and chance creation from the midfield compared to any other elite European team. Ronaldo scored 21 Serie A goals and 6 in the Champions League that season. He accounted for 30% of Juventus' goals that season. In Europe, the dependence was so clear on him. Just as an example, round of 16, Atletico Madrid vs Juve. First leg, 0 shots on target, 0 goals for Ronaldo.
Llorar, a Turín, a llorar. Ya está, 2-0, ni manita ni nada, 2-0 y fuera.
Second leg, Ronaldo hat-trick, Juve advance.
Bernardeschi, palla in mezzo!
And then in the quarterfinals against Ajax, Juventus averaged 2.1 expected goals. And guess who scored both goals? No other Juventus player scored in this tie. Juventus had no confident option once Ronaldo was neutralised. But was he at fault for some of it? Against Ajax, Juventus were outclassed, and Erik ten Hag taught Allegri a lesson. Ajax pressed higher and more aggressively, played at a higher tempo, and generated more efforts on goal higher expected goals, and controlled more possession. Compared to this, Allegri sat Juventus up deep, conceding possession, which is a weird choice when you bought this team to control games. Their PPDA rose significantly in the home tie for some reason, clearly showing they were a lot more cautious than aggressive. As a result, Juve bought Ronaldo without a system built for him, and they clearly suffered. How does one team spend £400 million after winning the league title, breaking their record transfer fee twice, and somehow manage to get worse? Like other teams on this list, this isn't an issue about quality, but it's an imbalance in the structural integrity which made them so successful last season. Just looking at it, last season, Liverpool had fullbacks known for their attacking prowess, but they generally built in a flat back four. They also had very talented players who could progress the ball from deep at a world-class level. They had players like Trent, Robertson, Gravenberch, and Van Dijk. Liverpool could easily force the opponents to stretch, and then one of these players could just simply switch the ball horizontally. Now this season, that control is gone. Obviously with Trent leaving, but given the arrival of players like Frimpong, who likes to operate high and wide, and then on the other side, Kirkes, who was signed for his prolific attacking abilities, now has the opposite problem. He's now more conservative given how wide Gakpo naturally operates. What should have been flexible and fluid now has become rigid and predictable. Up front, the imbalance is even clearer. Diaz was sold to Bayern Munich for $75 million.
Breaking news that the deal is done. Luis Diaz has completed his move to Bayern Munich.
Which, in my opinion, is not enough for what he offered. He was practically a false nine, and this created space for Gakpo and Salah to attack centrally from the wings. And the new forwards like Isak and Ekitike demand more space rather than create it for others. And this is forcing Salah now to stay wider, and this has greatly affected his attacking output. His touches in the opposition box have dropped from 4.5 to 6.9 per 90. He's also averaging fewer shots on target per 90. So statistically speaking, this is the biggest drop-off in his career. He's usually double guarded by a fullback and a winger, which already makes it difficult. But now this season, he's asked to get the ball a lot earlier in build-up, whereas last season he'd just run in behind and finish. We can see this is a clear issue because there's a massive drop-off in his dribble success rate, which was 42% last season, and now only 10 to 12% this season. And defensively, it gets a lot worse. Liverpool actually have strong data supporting their defense. They're ranked third in expected goals against. Still, in reality, they've conceded 29 in the league already, which puts them at the 9th best defense in the league, compared to the 2nd best defense last season. Looking at their first game against Bournemouth was a massive show. There were too many attack-minded players in Bournemouth's half, not enough defense behind it, they were scrambling whenever they lost it, and there was no control. Now, the Wirtz dilemma. Leverkusen, when Wirtz was playing for them, set up in a 3-4-3, had him operating as a 10/winger on the left, usually in wide starting positions. This gave him free space in the half space and minimal congestion from his teammates. However, Liverpool has too much congestion. When he drifts left, now Gakpo and Kirkes are in his fucking way. I truly don't think he's bad. Sure, he's had some technical errors adjusting to the Premier League. I just think the system isn't for him. So what does Slot do next? This season's Liverpool, super team, has reached the point every failed one does. Too much talent, no harmony. Slot has to tactically tweak to at least save this season and say it was a transition and not a failure. Well, yes, you could pick the PSG side with Messi. I think this side was just a bigger failure because of the money spent here. The amount of money PSG spent this summer essentially changed football for forever. 222 million on Neymar.
Now, Barcelona Football Club has given one of its star players, Neymar, permission to discuss a world record transfer deal with Paris Saint-Germain.
180 million for the future of Mbappe. In a domestic league, they already dominated. PSG owners were adamant about conquering Europe, and they had become a global powerhouse overnight. But in reality, European domination comes through years of history and refinement, something this PSG side didn't have. I mean, looking at the starting 11, it was absolutely stacked. This side dominated, finishing first in Ligue 1 to probably no one's surprise with a whopping 93 points, 108 goals scored, and only conceding 29. Doing the math, they were scoring about 3 goals per game. At times, it looked like a humiliation ritual for other teams. Even in the early stages of Europe, they smacked Bayern 3-0, they were essentially just walking the ball into the net. But I feel like the dominant scorelines created an illusion. Ligue 1 never asked PSG the hard questions, but Europe did. Looking at the tactics, Unai Emery's side had an array of attacking talent at its disposal. Neymar playing a free role on the left, Mbappe explosive on the right, and a real classic number 9 in Cavani up top. The idea was to create overloads on the left-hand side through Verratti, Neymar, and Kurzawa, then catch the overlapping Mbappe and Alves on the right-hand side to finish in space. I mean, you can see this perfectly in action in their first UCL goal scored against Bayern. You can see the Bayern players, their attention is attached to Neymar. Neymar drives in, causing chaos. Neymar offloads to the overlapping and now free Dani Alves. Alves finishes PSG lead in a huge European tie. Looking at the midfield, their role was very simple. It was just short passing cycles, just really there to get the best out of the front three. Pretty much, the side was trying to resemble Jurgen Klopp's Liverpool in 2018/19, with a destructive midfield three allowing for a powerhouse three to really destroy teams. Except, with this PSG side, there was a difference. The work rate out of the front three wasn't there at all. There was no pressing intensity, which put so much pressure on the rest of the team. Oftentimes, when they lost the ball, the team was scrambling. It seemed like the defensive responsibilities on some players were a lot greater than others. Now, you could say against weaker sides this didn't really matter, but against real contenders who were trying to set up to win the game, it really did matter. Looking at the Champions League round of 16, Paris were drawn against the holders, Real Madrid, which was a bit unfortunate, but this was by far the tie of the round. PSG for once weren't as intimidating as their opposition. Madrid, whilst not playing amazing football, had the experience and composure to win these type of games. Even after going down 1-0, they remained calm. PSG obviously had their amazing front three, but Madrid had Champions League heritage. Sergio Ramos, Ronaldo, Modric, Kroos, Navas. If we look at Madrid's open play goals against PSG in the first leg, you can see how they used their experience to just absolutely pick them apart. This was a lead up before Marcelo's goal scored against PSG to make it 3-1 for Madrid heading into the second leg. Madrid were brilliant at identifying PSG's weakness. They knew that overloading the wide areas on the pitch, they'd find themselves with a numerical advantage. Now, even looking at the second goal, which was similar to the third goal, Ronaldo came from Zidane switching from a diamond midfield to a flat 4-4-2 and overloading the left-hand side. With a flat 4, Madrid can now overload with Marcelo on the left, Kroos or Modric in the half space, and Asensio in between them. The second goal comes from Asensio's cross, and Areola can only parry it away into Ronaldo, who taps in the goal. These came from PSG being too fixated on dealing with Madrid centrally and not adapting quick enough to tactical changes made by Zidane. PSG played like a team desperate to prove something, lots of individual runs rather than team cohesiveness. When PSG needed a plan B, they didn't have one. They theorized that talent alone could bring them this glory. Everton under Ronald Koeman had a great 2016-17 season. They finished 7th, which was really good for them. So this next season coming up, they wanted to splash some cash and give the league and Europe a real run. Their owner was an English-Iranian billionaire, and he was ready to spend whatever it took. Not only that, Lukaku left for 80 million. So the message around Goodison Park was pretty clear. We're done with being best of the rest, it's time to start winning things. Everton spent 150 million euros in the summer. But like other teams on this list, what they bought on paper looked like a super team, it just didn't work. Firstly, they broke the record transfer fee for Sigurdsson. This was the statement signing. The idea was he was meant to rack up stupid amounts of GA, but the squad around him was tactically mismatched. Everton oversigned in one extremely important area, and that was the attacking midfield. They bought Davy Klaassen, Wayne Rooney, and Sigurdsson. All good players, but it's literally impossible to fit all three. But they tried. Koeman couldn't really have them on the pitch at the same time because there were too many players wanting the ball at feet and not enough players channel running or players stretching the pitch, threatening in behind, or protecting transitions. And then looking deeper into their problems, Koeman was often tasked with trying to control games, whereas the season before, where they finished 7th, their whole ideology was built on counter-attacking. This team wasn't built to high press or defend deeply. You could feel the lack of speed at the start of the season. Their attacks slowed down as they entered the box because they didn't have a proper number 9. And then the season's underlying numbers also shows that they struggled for goals. Everton finished the Premier League with 44 goals, conceding 58, and posted an XG of 40.5 and an XGA of 52.4, a negative expected goal difference. They began the season a mess, with genuine fears of relegation, so in October they got rid of Koeman. They brought in Big Sam Allardyce, who steadied the results enough to finish in a respectable top half, but still the football was just flat, which really sucked for Everton. A chance at competing with the Big Six led them to play some bullshit to get out of a relegation scrap. If there were really any highlights of the season, it'd be Wayne Rooney's return, where he scored a 60-yard strike against West Ham.
And sent straight back by Rooney. What a goal!
Thank you very much for watching. I appreciate you watching. It was very fun to make. If you have any suggestions or criticisms or comments, just leave them below. I would love to hear them.